April 24th, 2001, in the hometown Cables at Olympic Stadium again. Vladimir Guerrero among the players taking batting practice, and that looks like Tim Raines in there right now as we get set for National League Baseball. Bob Boone's Cincinnati Reds and Jeff Torborg's Montreal Expos. We brought along Mr. Jim Schutz, who's going to be joining us on the microphone in just a moment. And Jim, a longtime baseball man, is going to share some of his thoughts on today's game. Jim, who's that guy with his hat backwards there? Doesn't he know how to wear a baseball hat?
That looks like Junior, and he's getting ready to take some BP. He was just ragging on Tim Raines over here a minute ago when Raines was in there, but we'll see what he can do a little bit later.
And of course, the names Griffey and Raines are linked at this point in time because father-son combinations. Ken Griffey Jr. had the privilege of playing briefly with his father, and Tim Raines had the privilege of playing a professional game, although it was a minor league game, against his son, and he's hoping that it will happen again before this season is over. In fact, 2 nights ago when we were up here, he said that he was hoping that it would happen this season, but if his son doesn't get called up this year, he says, I'm going to put a little extra effort into getting in shape for next year.
You know, and Tim Raines' career has been like this. He's overcome some pretty serious injuries, plus he had I think a drug problem quite a few years ago, and now he's battling, I think, lupus. So he's got the heart. Otherwise, I think most players would have probably given up a long time ago.
Rock Raines, and it's nice to have him back with the Expos. He is a legend here. I was very pleased to be here opening day when he was in the starting lineup, and there were about 44,000 fans here. And I was mentioning to I think Mike Hildebrand the other day, this place just, the roof almost came off. The noise was so loud when the fans greeted him, and it was really a nice moment in professional sports.
He's always been a well-liked player. Even years ago when he first came up and played here, he was always a fan favorite. I think I'm sure there was a number of years that he was named the fan favorite player of the year, and he's had a good career. And like I said, otherwise I don't think he would be hanging around if he didn't have that desire to play with his son.
Now that's been a big incentive for him to make this comeback, because he was off all of last year, the year 2000, and he came back and wanted a team to play with, and the Expos said, hey, we'll give you a try, and it worked out well. Then he got hurt, but now he's back. It just occurred to me, Jim, when we talk about fathers, sons, we ought to include the Boone family in all this too.
Well, there's a pretty good
son.
heritage there, father, son, and his Bob Boone right now, the manager for the Cincinnati Reds, his son Brett is just having a phenomenal year with the team with the best record in baseball, and he's one of the big reasons. Brett Boone with the Seattle Mariners.
And Bob's father, Ray Boone, was an outstanding ball player too. So that's 3 generations that have been here.
Yeah, they probably all were around the ballpark just a little bit when they were kids and learned the professional way when they were probably by 10 years old, I would think.
Yeah, but a lot of players are at those. A lot of kids, I should say, are in that same situation, but very few of them end up following in their parents' footsteps like that.
It takes a lot of hard work. A lot of good coaching, but it also has to come from the kid. I mean, obviously, Brett Boone had that desire to play baseball. Tim Raines' son also the same way. I mean, you can be there day in and day out, but if you don't have that inner drive, you're not going to get there just because your name is Griffey or Boone or something. You've got to be able to do it on the field and back it up out there. And
the big talk all week, of course, was another son of a former big league ball player, Barry Bonds, whose father, Bobby, is mentioned in my favorite song, Bobby Bonds Can Play for Anyone, and that's in the 1980s when he was wrapping up his career, and that song Willie, Mickey, and the Duke Talking Baseball came out.
Yep, and he's another one. I mean, he's put up the stats to make himself Hall of Fame material. Unfortunately, he's not a media-friendly guy, and that hurts him in the newspapers and in the sporting magazines and everything. But maybe someday he's going to grow up and say, maybe I should have done it differently, but it's his choice right now to do it that way.
And I think I'm going to be putting this on immediately following the earlier coverage we had this week with the Giants being here. And Hometown Cable was here Tuesday and Wednesday. We taped every one of Barry Bonds' at-bats. Thursday he wasn't in the lineup. Hometown Cable wasn't here, but he pinched hit and he hit a home run. So in every at-bat except the one that I videotaped, Bonds didn't come through. And then he finally hit number 55 last evening in his only at-bat in that ball game. At this point in time, Jim, Griffey shouldn't be around here. Usually the starters come in at the tail end for the team batting practice. But Junior Griffey has had an outstanding career. He had only 40 home runs last year after 4 super seasons in a row where he had, I think, 48, 56, 56, and 49, as I'm trying to recall. But he had 4 super seasons in a row before coming over to Cincinnati, and last year settled down to only 40. And this year, of course, he's been hurt.
He's had he played in a real good hitter's ballpark out there in Seattle, and settled in, and then I think it was a big adjustment for him coming to Cincinnati, his hometown. A lot of pressure, I think, was put on him. He had a little falling out, I think, at one time with the media where he didn't talk to them for quite some time. But he's a talent, and I mean, I was just reading an article the other day where they were saying that he may be the guy that could break Henry Aaron's record for total home runs if he stays healthy and keeps producing.
I'm going to admit my stupidity here on tape. The other day I was here Tuesday with Peter Regnier, and we're talking about Bonds being tied at the moment with Mike Schmidt for 8th place with 548. And we were trying to figure out off camera exactly what order they were in, and I'm thinking Aaron, and you got Mays, and you got Frank Robinson, and you got McGuire, and I come down. I got only 7 when I got down to Schmidt and Bonds being tied for 7th instead of 8th, and I knew that they were tied for 8th. So after we're upstairs in the press box, and I said to Peter, I said, I just can't figure out who that other one might be. He said, Babe Ruth.
Babe Ruth. We all kind of forget about him now with all the young guys, and in the past 10, 15, 20 years, especially in the past 5 or 6 years with all the home runs being hit, that Babe Ruth played in the days when a pitcher was a pitcher, and you were facing the same guy probably 10 times during the season, and the ball wasn't juiced, and he did his 15, 20 hot dogs during the game, and he could still produce. So
yeah, he put up some remarkable totals, but this fellow in St. Louis, who originally was playing in Oakland, has surpassed him in many ways, because he's gotten there a lot quicker with a lot fewer at bats. In fact, I think you got some info there in your hand regarding some of the current leaders of active home run hitters, and that list you have isn't in any particular order, but Griffey comes in here today on this August 24th. With 456 homers, only 18 this year. He's been injured, but that's a lot of totals for a 31-year-old fella.
Yeah, and usually they say they're reaching their prime, around 29, 30 years old, and he should still have some real good years ahead of him. And he just may be the guy if he ever catches on fire, or if he ever move to a new stadium where they're one of the hitter ballparks like Houston, or maybe even go back to Safeco field back there. That's a real hitter's ballpark. Who knows what could happen?
So today's ball players are so rich that you hear a lot of them saying that's an interesting sound.
Evacuation notice.
I think that was from Star Trek 4, the whale giving the sign. You hear so many of them saying, well, I'm going to retire early. Of course, when they get up there, they realize that maybe they're going to miss all the adulation and everything, and they don't do it. But if Griffey does decide, if he stays healthy and does decide to keep playing, the thing about Hank Aaron is he played a lot of years, never hit more than 47 homers in a season, but he was still able to amass 755 because he was consistent year after year, and he played for a long, long time. Now, Griffey is 31 this season, Give him another 10 years, averaging 40 home runs, and he's at 856.
Yeah, that's a pretty good stat, but again, so much of it just depends on whether or not they stay healthy. The great thing about today that makes it even different than Henry Aaron when we were kids is if you do get hurt, they have so many modalities, I guess they call them, to get you back into the ball game sooner than just resting it and waiting for time. They can get you back in a whole lot faster time than they could 25 years ago when Aaron was playing.
And another thing is that today's ball players, for the most part, player for player, are in much better shape than they were 25 years ago and certainly 50 years ago.
I think that almighty dollar has a lot to say about it. They know if they don't keep themselves in shape, they're not going to play. You know, and if you don't produce, you don't get the big bucks. And there's so much money to be made out there today that you take a Ken Griffey Jr., he's got to keep himself in shape. You know, guys have come up for the most part with weight since they were probably 13, 14 years old, made them bigger, stronger, faster, diets, you know, everything they talk about has just made today's ball player a much better athlete all around than they did 20 years ago.
Getting back to that list you got in your hand there, Jim, Sammy Sosa is only a year older than Griffey, and you know, I think that surprised me when I saw that, and I think that probably will surprise a lot of people to know that. It just seems that Sosa's more mature, and we still think of Junior Griffey as a kid, probably because we all saw him grow up as baseball fans. But Sosa, a year older, he's a little bit far behind. He got a slower start at things, but boy, he's been coming on. As we're taping this, he's got 49. This will be his fourth season in a row of 50 or more home runs, and I think only Mark McGwire has ever done that. In fact, I know Mark McGwire is the only one who ever did that. He had 52, 58, 70, and 65. Sosa, in the last three seasons, has had 66, 63, 50, and now he's at 49 and hot.
They were just talking about this on SportsCenter the other day, how he is the only other guy was McGwire to do that, and you know, he plays in a great hitter's ballpark. They finally picked up a couple players around him that, with McGriff, you know, can protect him, and he's seen a lot more pitches to hit, and he's produced. He's another guy, like you said, a little kind of a late bloomer, but was a good player when he was younger, but never had the stats until the last few years, where he's just caught on fire and like you said, been very consistent. And I think that's the amazing part about Sammy Sosa. He hasn't been hurt a lot, and he's just put up the numbers.
The sad part about Sosa and the Cubs this year, as far as Montreal goes, is they were in here in April and out, and that's it. As you may recall, in April, the Expos played the Cubs 3 games in Chicago. They came back here, played the Mets in 3 games. Then the Cubs came in for 3 more games, and that's it. The first 9 games, they played the Cubs 6 times, and they won't see them again.
That's the problem. I don't know if they call it the split schedule or you know, whatever they call it now, and it's happens with a couple other teams. It's crazy scheduling, and a lot of the problems that they have with the schedule today is with the interleague play. That messes up, you know, a lot of the rivalries and the schedule, with the problem with not being able to see the Cubs. You know, the rest of the season they come in April, and that's it.
And getting back to that list a little bit here, Jim. Sosa, as we said, is at 435 lifetime, is 21 behind Griffey, but he actually has over 240 fewer at-bats. So home run ratio is probably just a little bit better than Griffey's. He's got 6,300 at-bats to almost 6,600 for Junior Griffey. So per at-bat, he's doing as well as Griffey, and he's really coming on. I'm sure over the last 3 seasons or 4 seasons, his ratio is even better than Junior Griffey's is. Mark McGwire is next on that list that we have. He's 38 this season, but he's hit, as we tape this, he only hit 22 this year because of another injury-plagued season for the fella. But in just 6,120 at-bats, he's hit 576 home runs. It's just better ratio than anybody. Babe Ruth, Ralph Kiner, Ted Williams, Willie McCovey, anybody.
And most of them just they're bombs. They're not little fly ball cheapies. It's amazing. I'm looking at these numbers, and you're right. You take the ratio of what he's hit compared to the number of at bats, and that's just phenomenal. And you really have to wonder. I mean, you hear talk shows and ESPN. They talk about that all the time. What would have happened if he wasn't hurt? And unfortunately, he's a fairly injury-prone guy, and when he's out for a significant period of time. And that probably is going to, I guess, would stop him probably from breaking the all-time record.
Yeah, it's just a matter of being able to stay healthy. Right now, he's hitting home runs at a pace of about 1 for every 10 at-bats this season. And last year, he hit 32 home runs, but he was injured so much that if you took his last year's season and put it on as many at-bats as he had in '98, he would have hit another 70 home runs last season. This year, he's behind that pace, but he's still hitting 1 every 10 at-bats, which is phenomenal. But he's only hitting 200, so that's got to play a factor in his desire to keep playing. He wants to be more than just a guy who hits home runs and bats 200. He's got too much pride to do that.
And that is the one thing about Mark McGwire, and that he talks about when you listen to him talk sometimes. He doesn't want to be a hanger-on. In fact, just the other day, the Cardinals and Tony La Russa talked it over with him, and they dropped him from 4th in the batting order down to either 5th or 6th. And he just said, I'm having absolutely no problem with that. He said, I'm not producing. They're one of the hottest teams in baseball right now in terms of trying to catch somebody for the wild card. And he doesn't have that. I don't think he has that big ego problem, just from that standpoint there. He's hitting 200. He knows somebody else is producing better, and he's able to live with it.
Yeah, the Cardinals, the Cubs, the Giants, they're among the teams that are in that wild card race right now in the National League. Griffey comes in to take a little bit of batting practice here. More on that list that you have there, Jim. Barry Bonds, who just left here. He's 37, so he's nearing the end of his career, but you wouldn't know it by the way he's hitting the home runs this year. He hit 46 a few years back. He hit 49 last year, but he's never put up numbers like he's doing this year with the 55, and he's up at 549 lifetime. Just last night, passing Mike Schmidt to put him in 8th place. Yeah, but he's got 7,800 at bats. He's been consistent though. He's every year he's put up decent numbers. He just hasn't had a lot of super seasons, and now he's suddenly having one.
And the other thing that you have to think about Barry Bonds is how many years did he play in Candlestick Park, which they said was one of the worst places for a power hitter. I think he started his career in Pittsburgh, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. So he hasn't played always in a hitter-friendly park, and hasn't always played with guys batting around him who would protect him and have a threat like he is today. So you look back on those couple of little things, maybe he's up around 600, 700 home runs. He's not that far from 600 now, but who knows where he would have been if he'd have played in a ballpark where the ball's going to jump out of there.
Well, being a lefty hitter, I know he'd like to see what he could do in Yankee Stadium. Because it's a left-handed hitter's ballpark, and who knows? He just might be there next year. Next on that list I've got here is a fellow named Jose Canseco, who's still hanging on, playing with the White Sox this year. He's got 11 home runs. He's at 457, which puts him one ahead of Griffey at this very moment. So Griffey will probably pass him before the year is over. But Canseco's been an interesting ball player for many years. Another injury-plagued guy. I looked at his record last night on the internet. And I think he's had maybe 3 seasons where he played over 150 games. And just seems like every year he gets hurt and he misses a whole bunch of games. And right now he is, I would think, hanging on.
I don't think there's any doubt about that. He wanted to get back to the major league so bad. He went down and was playing, I think, in New Jersey for one of the independent teams, and the White Sox picked him up and signed him out of there. Unfortunately, like you said, the injuries have just devastated his whole career. I think one of the big problems, you look at him, and he's just a humongous big guy, strong, and probably doesn't have the flexibility that somebody like Griffey does, or maybe a Barry Bonds. He's just a big, strong guy, and those muscles aren't as flexible as some of the other guys, and he's more prone to injuries.
And I think McGuire's in the same boat. McGuire's a muscular man, and I think he just doesn't have enough stretch in him, and he does pick up those injuries where a more lean player probably would avoid him. Also on that list, we have F. MC, that's Fred McGriff, the crime dog, and it surprised me when I started looking at it. I just realized he's got 438 home runs, so at this point he's ahead of Sosa, and he just went with the Cubs within the last few weeks to kind of protect Sosa. He's got 21 homers this year, but he's been a steady ball player, and I'm surprised that he's still at this point ahead of Sosa lifetime. He's 37 years old, 5 years older than Sosa, but still that's quite a few homers for McGriff.
Yeah, and to think, Calvin, he was a property of the Yankees at one time when he was real young, and they let him go. But he's had a great career, and it took, I don't know what it took, what it ended up taking for him to end up with the Cubs this year. He'd said right along he wanted to stay in Tampa Bay. That was his home. That's where his family is. That's where he's from, and he really didn't want to leave. But all of a sudden, he came over to the Cubs, to be in a pennant race, and he's put up some big numbers, and I've always been enjoyed watching him. He's got a nice big long swing, but when he gets a hold of the ball, it certainly jumps off the bat.
And last on that list is Rafael Palmeiro, and again, this one here surprised me too. He has played for some teams that may not get the publicity that some of the other players have gotten, and he's been another consistent ball player. And he's got 434 lifetime homers. He again is 37 years old. He's having a nice season. He's got 34 homers as we speak. But I was surprised to see him in that top list of active home run hitters with that many homers.
I think consistent is the big word with Palmeiro. I mean, he's 37 years old. Just watching him last night against the Yankees, he hit one last night. I don't know if that number.
That's up to date.
That's up to date. Well, there you go. He's got 434, and he's just consistent day in and day out. When he was with Baltimore, it was the same way, and he just went down there, and he just goes up, and he's like a hitting machine, I think. And consistency, I think, is the big word with him.
Jim, your sharp eyes caught the fact that there's another Guerrero in the lineup tonight, but he's not playing with the Expos.
That would be Wilton Guerrero, Pedro's brother, and a good player in his own right. I always liked him when he was with the Expos here.
And they got rid of him during the off season, let him go, and when you look at Vladimir, you figure that Vladimir must have been the first one at the trough, because he's a lot bigger than his brother.
I think so. I said Pedro played a million years ago for the Dodgers, but you're right. Vladimir, he must have got all the genes, and because I just couldn't understand how small he really is. I mean, he's probably 5'10" maybe, and if he weighs 160 pounds soaking wet, that's it. He's playing left field tonight. He played second base for the Expos when he was here, so it must be he has a little bit of versatility in him.
Looks like Junior's about ready to step into the cage. We'll get a few shots of him as he gets in there. There's the Reds emblem, and here's where'd he go? He was in there, now he just stepped out to let somebody else take a few swings. Who's in there right now? Number 3. Pokey Reese.
Pokey Reese. I think they're gonna. I think what they did, Calvin, I think the major leagues kind of picked up on the way we used to do it at Northern Adirondack. You hit your batting order when it comes time for the batting practice, just to get accustomed to it. But I'm not really sure.
Probably is. I know they stole a lot of their ideas from Jim Schutz at NAC. I know that.
They just.
Wait a minute here now. This guy snuck ahead between Reese and.
Pokey Reese is leading off for.
Okay, then they got Adam Dunn.
Adam Dunn, I'm going to guess this is. here, and then Junior will be coming up next. I think we had to just go up and no, here goes Sean Casey.
See, there's so much for that NAC theory.
Yeah, let's take him back to school.
You know, a sad thing, I noticed it the other night too. Look at in the bleachers. I mean, here's Griffey taking home run, swinging, batting practice, but it's home run practice. And there's probably 30 people out there, if that.
If you're right, if you're lucky. I had the fortunate experience of going to Yankee Stadium for the first time in my life the other day, and 55,000 people there, and it's just amazing the atmosphere. And you come here and you got 5,000 or 6,000, and it's really too bad because Major League Baseball is a fine product. And
and who wouldn't want to be out there if you're 16 to 21 or whatever to catch a batting practice ball off Ken Griffey's bat? And there's, like I said, only 30 people out there probably.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, for whatever reason, I really don't know what the reason is they don't draw here. They just plain and simply don't. If they get 10,000, I guess they're probably happy.
I don't know if they're happy, but they know it's better than 5. But I think Montreal, the rest of baseball recovered after '94. Montreal never did. '94 was the year that the Expos were leading the league. The Yankees were leading the American League. It looked like it was going to be maybe a Yankee-Montreal World Series the way things were going. Then the strike ended the season prematurely, and Montreal fans just haven't come back.
Not since then. You're exactly right. I can remember coming up here a few times in the early 90s, even the late 80s, I think it was, and 55,000 people here when they had every seat available, and it was just full, and it's just too bad because it was a great atmosphere. But they don't, and who knows what's going to happen, but whatever's going to happen, I don't think is going to be good.
No. I think at this point, probably the best we can hope for is one more season out of the Expos team. There's no way they can afford to be here with 5,000 in normal attendance. Even earlier in the week with Barry Bonds here with on pace to hit 70 home runs. They never hit 10,000 in any one given night to come out here and watch Barry Bonds. You got Junior Griffey here tonight. It's a Friday night. Maybe they'll be lucky if they get 10,000 here tonight.
Just a sad state of affairs for baseball, but I'll say like you, if we're lucky, I think they'll be here one more year, and then there's been talk about just dissolving the whole entire franchise along with a couple other teams. But time will tell, and miracles can happen, but it's going to take one unbelievable miracle for the Expos to be here.
Well, and you look at, of course, it's nothing that hasn't been said 100,000 times already. You look at Alex Rodriguez making $25 million. How can a team like the Expos compete to get a player to pay $25 million, I should say, a season? How can the Expos compete to get a player to pay $8-9 million a season? And that's 1/3 of what A-Rod is getting.
Exactly. I mean, one of the big things they talked about with the Expos this spring was that they don't even have an English-speaking radio station. You look at the New York Yankees, probably
they do now.
Yeah, they do. They do.
Yeah, 990. Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
But for how long? For a couple of years now, they didn't.
Yeah. Well, last year I think was the real blackout, and then this year about maybe a month or so into the season. 990, Team 990, whatever they call it, covers the sports radio station, 24-hour sports, and Expos are part of their package. But I think the Expos are putting in, I think about $100,000 instead of making money. They're actually paying money to get the radio coverage.
Wow. I just read an article here earlier in the year that they figured they were going to lose. They were going to be in the hole $20 million this year. I don't care how much money, kind of a businessman you are, that's not a good business practice. And I think, Calvin, one of the big things, and I mean we all talk about it. You and I did it on the way up. Is the exchange rate? They pay. I'm pretty sure they pay these players in American funds, and if they're paying 45% on the dollar, that's just astronomical right there in itself.
That's right, because it's $8 Canadian to sit in those bleachers, $6 Canadian to do it on the weekend, which isn't a lot of American dollars. So it takes a lot of those to pay $1 million salary.
So we'll just have to wait and see, but it doesn't look good for the franchise. And here's Mr. Griffey again. Maybe we can go up and move those players out of the way, Calvin. Just say, excuse me, you're in our way.
We'll just wander up where we can get a little better angle. The ground crew is getting ready to move everybody off the field. I think one thing that has helped bring back baseball, not in Montreal obviously, but throughout the rest of the nation, is the fact that the offense has picked up so much. We used to, as kids, I'm sure you did the same thing, read about some of the stats that the players would put up in the 30s and so on, Hack Wilson or Rogers Hornsby or guys like that there, and you just say, how could have somebody drive in 190 runs like Hack Wilson did? And every year within the last 4 or 5 years, we've been seeing some phenomenal totals coming out of these ball players, and I think fans like offense. They don't want the average game to be 14-13, but it's nice to have a high-scoring ball game.
Yeah, and I think just so much of it has to do with conditioning. I mean, I can remember, dating myself, going back to when I played college baseball back in 1970. If you lifted weights, you were a freak, and just watching these guys hit, they've all been on the weight machine since they've 10, 11, 12 years old, and the ball just absolutely jumps off their bat. And I think the hitting coaches today are just phenomenal, and they have every advantage going for them if somebody has the tools and the eye-hand coordination to do that.
It's a simple matter. As long as you got that hand-eye coordination, you too can do this.
We can all do. You can do it. You and I can go out and take some BP.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure we get it out of the infield. I think I could hit this guy. It'd take me a little bit to get accustomed to it, because I haven't swung a bat in about 5 or 6 years. But I think I could get a couple of hits off him. Probably end up in the hospital the next day with a bad back or something.
And of course, talk about lifting weights. You don't have to be a big leaguer to lift weights. High school kids are doing it. The girls are out there lifting weights. Everybody is into the weights now in sports at every level.
If you're going to be an athlete today, and I don't care if you play soccer, basketball, baseball, and you want to go to the next level, whether you're moving from a varsity sport, high school sport, to college, if you don't hit the weights, you're lost. You are behind the 8 ball, and chances are you're not going to make it at all. Almost every single college team that I've seen, or people that I've talked to, you have to be in a weight room. They have regular weight training sessions during the year, during the off season, so it's just an automatic thing now.
All right, Junior going the opposite way. It's in the corner, but didn't get out of here.
It might be the first one.
Of course, Junior Griffey, several years he owned that home run derby at the All-Star break. So he's just got such a natural, smooth swing. It's just like there's no effort into it sometimes when he hits that ball. Well, Jim, anything else that you'd like to chat about? I've been pushing you here to try to get all I could out of that great baseball mind of yours. I'll take advantage of this great situation for me here.
Yeah, things have kind of just turned to mush the last couple of years, but it's just a whole lot of fun being here and seeing it, and just being around Major League Baseball and watching, like we said before, these phenomenal athletes. They always say the hardest thing to do in professional sports is hit a round ball with a round bat, and it just takes
especially when it's coming at you at 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, exactly.
And
so
curving.
and it's not coming in straight either. So it's just a lot of fun being here, and maybe something will change in the next year or two, and the Expos will be here for a while to stay.
Let's hope so. Jim Schutt's paying close attention here. See if he can pick up on a few things to pass along to Griffey to help him improve his swing. May not want to improve that one too much. It's dead center field. So Jim Schutt's here. He's going to pay close attention and maybe help Griffey improve his game.
In a game, you got a few opportunities to go in there, so you got a lot more future.
Good feeling to get into the game, get a start, and get on base like you did, score a run, make things happen.
Once I got in the game, and for me, with being in the game and the outfield, really fun into being out there. The game got going, the better I felt. I kind of got those jitters out early in the game. The first few fly balls kind of got me going.
Was there any doubt on any of those in your mind when they were hit?
Not at all.
No?
I think there's a lot of times I'm not really sure if I can get to them, but I think there were a few times that some scar tissue that I was reaching for balls that kind of stressed and helped me out.
All the running catch you made, saved a couple of runs. Still in the last out of the third inning. Yeah.
Second runner is the second and third. That's one of those you have to go for because you can reach out to it. It could have been a turning point of the ball game. Just took off that as hard as I could. I was hoping I could reach farther enough to get it, and I did.
Did you feel it in the shoulder on this? You said maybe a little scar tissue effect. Did you feel any pain, or did you just feel tightness, or because that is?
Not at all. Not any pain. I've been feeling pain for the last 3 years, so 3 months. So
no extra pain.
Nothing even close to what I've been feeling going through rehabilitation. So, that's behind me. I'm sure I'm still going to feel a little tweak here and there, but that's all a part of getting well. And I'm sure it won't be 100% for probably another couple of months. It doesn't hamper me from going out and doing that.
How about hitting?
What about this game tonight? Down 4-1, and you sort of took advantage of all the little opportunities.
Well, I think the big picture is that last night we had a heartbreaker. And here they come back, get behind tonight, and still come through it. To me, the overall picture of this club has been one that doesn't quit, doesn't get down on itself. The heartbreakers say it's over. They handle it very professionally. That's really something for a young team. Tonight, the at-bat kind of that Orlando Cabrera had was just symbolic, I think, of how hard we pushed to try to get this game. I mean, that was a tremendous battle. And then he hit that little chopper, and we ended up with 2 runs. And I think really it was symbolic. Of course, the ball that Vladdy tried to hit around the moon, that certainly got us back in a hurry. But the good defense, Cabrera has been unbelievable for us. But that at-bat was just sensational.
What about the old guy, the leadoff guy, Tim Raines tonight?
He better watch out. He keeps doing that, he'll keep playing. He might say, wait a minute, you better sit me down here. I'm too old for this. But boy, what an outing he had. On base 3 times, hitting the ball hard as he did, and still able to run, and in a couple outstanding defensive plays. That one, I asked him when he came in, I said, is the staple still on your shoulder after reaching out for that one? He said, I'm not sure, I'm afraid to find out. But that was really an all-around good game. I mean, we tried to force the issue, and we got a couple guys thrown out running, but it was a nice outing by our ball club. And I think we took Tony out because he was up in pitches. And that last game he had in San Diego, he was way up, and we didn't want to hurt him. So we figured, let's get him out of here tonight. And the bullpen bounced back after struggling last night, which is a good sign.